I'll let you know like exactly how and when that all runs. Okay, so no worries in that.
No stress at all.
Okay, good.
Yeah, because it was today, and I realized, and I was thinking, wow, I haven't heard anything. So
Yeah, no, it was chaos. They had a whole lot of launches, but it's good. We're right on track, so it's all good.
So because you were saying that this kind of now got the interest of the executive team.
Yeah, so I think what's going to happen is that they're astounded at the fact that we can hold, we've got member eyes. The members are paying attention to this, and they've tried like so many different things. And I think it's that sense of community. I think it's being online, chatting to people, commenting on their posts, showing up, doing Facebook lives. People just want to know that you care. That's really the thing.
Yeah.
And people, so that's, and people just don't have enough of the care factor going on. They're so busy with their lives. There's so much, and there's so much. I'm sure everybody you talk to, just so, including ourselves, except me. I'm probably like the most relaxed person you could ever meet. And and the thing is that people just want to know that somebody's out there. And that was like the biggest thing. Like, it was so good to have people supporting us. It was so good to have feedback. It was so good to, people didn't care about whether they lost weight or not. They were just cool, happy to be part of a community. So that's really, people are needing that. People are feeling that for sure. People need the support. They need care. They need, they just need to feel needed and acknowledged, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You'll see on this program as well. It's such a big part. And it's been big learning curve for me. I wasn't always big into group part of programs and stuff. It hasn't been something I've done in programs we've run. And Jenny's been like, no. This is it's a massive part. So just seeing it on her on her group as well.
Yeah, the thing is, we can no longer just treat a part of a person. It's each human being is a spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, psychological, physiological sort of amalgamation of all their memories and anticipations and hopes and joys and pains and everything else. And then the time has come that we address the whole person, the whole being. And you can't leave behind an aspect of them. We have to address the emotional, the psychological, like everything. So that's been 100%. Part of my process. That's what I've learned in dealing with people. It's no longer teaching them how to do squats. You got to do the squats with emotion.
Yeah. But you never were like that. You never bought the whole kind of, this is a physical thing. Even when I knew you a long time ago. Warren was always there. I never knew what he was talking about. So, it took me like 40 years to figure out, hey, this guy's onto something.
Steve, trust me, half the time I don't know what I'm talking about, but it feels right. It feels right. So I kind of go with that, Okay, cool.
No, it's more than feels right. I think it's right.
Steve, are you waiting for somebody to log on?
Okay, I've just got a message here from Magda that she was in Pretoria for a team building thing, and she's still on her way home. So I mean, she might join in, she might not. So she's still traveling home. So yeah, so I suppose we just get going then, if you're okay with that.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, because it'll be nice just to be able to, then I can take the time to introduce Warren, and obviously we've asked Warren to kind of jump on and getting stuck into the program, but it's more than that. I've known Warren for 1997, right? 97, 98. Must have been somewhere around there.
Yeah, I started teaching. at the Health and Rec probably in 93, 94. And then I became a...
so it was probably, at Old Eds. I met you at Old Eds.
Yes, that's right.
Absolutely.
Cecil Griggs was still the...
Yes. That manager. So Warren's got something very interesting to sort of bring to the table, I think. I know. And really dealing on the the aspect is he was always doing something different. They're very much focused on what makes people tick. Why do people do things? And we've been involved together on the PPS challenge now for this will be the 3rd year. And it was good to sort of reconnect a couple of years ago. And I've just been super impressed by what I see. He's very focused on a part of our program, which I think is important, which is mindset. Mindset, the reason for why people succeed and why they need to succeed. And as a coach, does a lot of coaching himself. So I think Warren's got a big part to play at some point in how we do this program. And so it's good to have you, and welcome, Warren.
Well, Steve, thank you, and thank you,
Thanks,
Jenny,
Warren.
for concurring with Steve. And some of my I've just spent in, so if I may, just very quickly, just to Jenny, my background. I mean, ever since for the last 3 decades, I've been involved in health and wellness, and personally, my own personal journey with training is that twice now, training and working out and movement has actually saved my life to the degree, maybe not sort of as dramatic as I was going to die, but it certainly saved me from just that sort of life of sort of quiet despair. And absolutely passionate. I lost both my parents to lifestyle diseases, dementia and sort of a diabetic related infection. And both of my parents were told, listen, you can manage this, you can do this, and you can, they asked me for programs, and as a personal trainer back then, this was recent, it was like 2012 or so, they literally within a year of each other passed. And both of them said, listen, this is manageable. You guys can look after this. You guys can make it happen. And, that's the old paradigm. The new paradigm, what I've really become extremely passionate about, is that we have so much access to so much more. All the new sciences, well, old sciences, but psychoneuroimmunology, epigenetics, all the new research that's coming through, is we have such control. Our mindset is we have such control over what we do with our bodies, our environments, etc., etc. And the old paradigm was that our environment affected us, and the new paradigm is that we affect our environment. And I think that's a very powerful space to operate from. There's just so much information out there, and I could talk forever. But let me leave it up to you, Jenny and Steve, to start with the program, and then if you have questions or if I pick up something, then I'll happily ask. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Please add in. Okay. Are you going to chat around sleep, Steve?
Yeah. Absolutely. So the theme that we wanted to kind of get onto tonight is sleep. And it's part of what we talk about as the environment. The terrain. The kind of fundamental pieces of the program that we have to get right, because at the end of the day, you can do all the fancy testing, you can take the right products, you can exercise in a particular way, but if your terrain is not right, if you haven't managed your terrain, which is really all and sleep is such a massive component of that, and sleep's a mystery to me personally. Has been a mystery to me my entire adult life. So this is not something I'm talking of as an expert. My functional medicine practitioner is like very unhappy with me at the moment and how I'm sleeping, and the fact that I need to do a significantly better job at it. But I'm really on side of that, And so yeah, let's jump into a little bit of the theory. I'm going to share my screen quickly. Just give me a second to get there. So let's just jump into that. So I think just really quickly, if we can, we'll just have a look at this kind of presentation if it'll open. And we're not going to do this in massive amounts of detail, because obviously this is going to be a big part of the program itself. So there's a particular module that deals with sleep in its entirety. But this is certainly as an introduction. I'll touch on a couple of things. This first sort of introductory page, if I can just probably present it a bit better. Internet's a bit slow tonight, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seems to be a delay as well.
It is a bit difficult. Yeah, there's a bit of a delay. Okay. So I think what I'll do I'll just run it from here. Okay, so the big steps, if you want to take a kind of big chunk at it and say, okay, what do we need to do? Well, the big ones, avoiding stimulants, before bedtime, seems like a fairly obvious one, but it's really important. So avoiding your stimulants, making sure you don't eat like really big heavy meals within 2 hours. This one here, there's certain people that when we do stress analysis, where exercise is actually indicated, but never vigorous exercise. So it's important to understand that for some people who are pretty adrenally fatigued or adrenal stress, then we prescribe exercise between bedtime and after dinner. But for most people, we want to try and avoid vigorous exercise within sort of 3 hours of going to bed. This is one that we're working hard on, developing a bedtime ritual, that your body knows exactly when to get ready to go to sleep. I talk about this a lot when we look at, where we come from, what our DNA expects from us. And we're still very much, our DNA is 1.9 million years old. So it still expects us to do certain things, one of which is to sleep with the sun and rise with the sun. So this is really important, making sure you develop a routine or a ritual, making sure that you don't have light, the temperature's right and the noise and that kind of stuff you want. And this is one I think that so many people really struggle with, and that is making sure, you've got to have downtime, you've got to have quiet time before you sleep, making sure that your sleep is regular, same time to bed, same time to rise. And I think our modern society gets us where we pat ourselves on the back and say, hey, I don't need that. I can operate on 4 hours sleep a night. And I mean, it's something I've done my whole life. I'm proud of that fact, but it's no good. Making sure that your bedroom is a sanctuary, it's not for anything else. Sleep and sex, that's what your bedroom's for. And then, one of the things, also for me, if you can't sleep after 20 minutes, get up and do something boring, until you can feel tired and go to sleep. So I think, Jenny, just like kind of big oversight there, big picture there. I mean, that's the big ones, and we'll get into more in the actual module itself.
And yeah, I mean, in avoiding things,
okay with that?
Alcohol is another thing to also be careful of. It's not just the caffeines and the things, and we love our glass of wine in the evenings and stuff, but it doesn't always do favors for sleep neither. So alcohol is just also something to be aware of.
And then I think the ones that we wanted to look at is, in our sort of sleep hygiene or stress hygiene module in particular, we've for us evidence-based things are really important, and we kind of have looked at 4 evidence-based strategies from a relaxation point of view that we think have real value. And those are breathing as a formal part of relaxation is horribly underutilized. So breathing is one. Tapping is something I haven't got into myself, but there's an enormous amount of good data behind tapping, and as a formal method of relaxation. Yoga is one, and we're going to sort of talk to that. And I think Warren, maybe have something to add on to this one. And then mindful meditation. Being meditating mindfully about being mindful is a massive part of getting this right. So those are the 4 sort of relaxation strategies, if you want to put it that way, that we think have real value, and one of the things I've found doing this kind of programs for a long time is this one here is particularly personal. This one is an intensely personal strategy. Is that the relaxation technique that you find that works for you, because it's very different for different people. And I think prescribing a method, I think will fail. So I really do think that people have got to find things that work for them, and work in their environments and their social norms and so on. But it's certainly those are the four big ones, I suppose, that we'll have a look at again. I just want to really quickly mention, and I will share it. I found a great video from one of our trusted links partners, which is a guy by the name of Dr. David Bilstrom. He's the head of autoimmunity at the Brigham Young University in the US, one of the really, really big functional medicine centers, right up there with the Cleveland Clinics of the world. And he was talking through a study that's fairly recently been produced, which I found absolutely fascinating. It was a Harvard study done really with big money, it's a big study. And what they did was they got two groups. And they had one group that were familiar with relaxation techniques, and from anything from sort of 6 months to 20 years, so a big spectrum of different kinds of people who had formally participated in relaxation techniques over either a short period and a long period. And then a group of people that had never done so. And they did a full genetic panel on both groups. And what they found was there was a 2,000 gene difference between the two groups. And that's how big difference that it makes. So there was an expression. Remember, I'm not talking about different genes. I'm talking about an expression. So you had 2,000 gene expression difference. And what they did was they then said, right, let's do this for 4 weeks only. 4 weeks. 15 minutes of mindful meditation, of mindful relaxation technique. Pick one, didn't necessarily prescribe, and then come back and redo it after 4 weeks. And 500 genes had changed in 4 weeks. 500 genetic expressions had changed in 4 weeks.
Okay.
And the fascinating part to the researcher was those all 500 of them, every single one bar none, was involved in inflammation. Was involved in controlling inflammation in the body. And we know that inflammation is at the heart of every chronic disease that we're struggling with today. So those 500 straight away, bang, in 4 weeks. Then the researcher said, let's do something interesting. Go back to those people and say, okay, we said 15 minutes a day. Sorry, we said 30 minutes a day. How much did you actually do? So the people in okay. We only did 15 minutes a day on average 3 times a week. So the study said 30 minutes a day every day, okay, for 4 weeks. They did 15 minutes a day on average, only 3 times a week. And we still had a 500 genetic, an epigenetic change of 500 genes in 4 weeks. So I think we need to start understanding the impact. Certainly that for me struck me massively, because that means that it has a fundamental role, I think, in chronic disease management. And I've always been an exercise guy, and I believe that physical activity is probably the one that's most important because it does so many other things. But maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this has certainly had more of an impact than I had thought initially. Certainly. So that's kind of and just really from if you want to look at the kind of what's the word I'm looking for, the actual nuts and bolts of it that we've kind of looked at. I'll just tell me if you can see this, and then we can have a look. Just to break those 4 little steps down and have a look and see what we are talking about specifically. And we wanted to look at breathing. We wanted to have a look at and at yoga specifically. Yeah, something like that. So I don't think that's going to work. Not. Yeah. So I don't think it's going to actually work for us tonight because this is very slow. Let's see. Maybe it does. This. Yeah. Apologies for the speed. It's normally better. Okay. And again, this was kind of interesting to me, particularly from a yoga perspective. The difference between sort of poses that work, obviously getting up in the morning, and versus poses at night, they were different. And I did find that kind of interesting. That we needed to do that. But in the meantime, Jenny, is there something you wanted to have a look at specifically? You wanted to talk about specific. I know you wanted to talk about color.
Yes. So I wanted to chat a little bit around, I mean, how to track your sleep patterns, and it's really interesting. So your heart rate should be dropping to its lowest point at about midway through your sleep cycle. So if dropping off too late, like around 3 or 4 a.m., that's too late. And that means you're still in sympathetic, like overdrive. So you're not getting into the rest and the relaxation area. So it's really important to look at that and see what's going on there. And then the other thing that's very interesting as well is that your deep sleep and your REM sleep should each be about 35% of your sleep cycle. So your light sleep should only be about 30%, which was very interesting for me to understand as well. I'm definitely not there yet. So that was an interesting. So deep and REM together should be 70% of your sleep cycle. And unfortunately, the watches that we have typically are not great sleep trackers. Mine definitely doesn't pick up if I'm awake during the night. If I don't actually get out of bed, it doesn't pick up that I'm awake. So one of the best sleep tracking devices is an Oura ring. That's spelled O-U-R-A. I wonder if I can put that into the chat. And that is an absolutely phenomenal device to track sleep. So it's a ring that you wear, and it's brilliant for tracking and monitoring sleep. So that's really useful. And so that was definitely one of the things I wanted to just discuss. And then the other thing is the temperature. Often, especially in summer, we get too hot. And then that also starts to disrupt your sleep. And you start pulling blankets off and it wakes you up and so on. So there is a product called a chili pad, which is quite interesting. Haven't tried it myself yet. It seems to be water-based, but it's like you put it on your mattress and it cools the bed down. So that kind of keeps your temperature at a much more steady level, and it makes a huge difference, I think, especially for men. I think a lot of people battle with temperature. So that's been a game changer for a number of people I know. And then you also get weighted blankets, and I've now seen cooling weighted blankets as well, which are also really interesting products to try out. So they kind of give a gentle pressure while you're sleeping. So people describe it as like being like a hug. It kind of gives you a hug from the blanket. And so it's just really comforting and relaxing, and it releases your serotonin. So it's like you're in contact with someone, but you're not. So you're just sleeping. And that is a very useful thing to look at as well. And particularly I've seen the bamboo ones seem to be more cooling than like the cottons and stuff. So that's something to consider as well, just to help your sleep if you are battling with things like temperature and so on.
How cool is that? You get an adult blankie.
Yeah, an adult blankie.
Yes. Yeah.
Now we've got an excuse. Like like we can have our own blankie because it's, you know, it's a weighted blanket that releases serotonin. Meanwhile, it's just a blankie because it gives me a hug, you know, because I'm single and my adult blankie. Yay.
Yeah, I have no comment.
Yeah, exactly.
But one of the things that I remember, Jenny, that you were quite focused on with a couple of patients was the link between, certainly on our metabolic side, was the link between blood sugar, or at least sleep, and diabetes-like symptoms. And I think I remember specifically you saying, look, we need to understand it. If somebody's not sleeping, and I think the test was, I think 4 days of no sleep. So it was, or 4 days of 4 hours. That was right. 4 or 5 days of 4 hours. Is that right? I can't remember the study exactly, but the result was fasting glucose and fasting insulin at diabetic type levels. As soon as somebody has up to as little as 4 or 5 days of limited sleep. So for people that are already metabolically challenged, that sleep is massively important. So it's not just, you know, obviously we are focusing here on our group is focused on fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue, but certainly in the metabolic world as well, which is something that we'll be focusing on too. Sure. If you're not sleeping and you already have a high fasting insulin numbers, you know, you're going to be in, you know, you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want from a diet perspective, etc. Because your terrain is, you know, it's like as Dr. Bolstrom describes it, as a dirty swimming pool. You know, so if your terrain is clean, it's a bright blue swimming pool, that's great. But if it's dirty and it's full of, you know, the brown and dirty and so on, well then, you know what, it's pointless. You know, you're not necessarily going to get anywhere with whatever products or medications or whatever you want to use. So I remember finding that, you know, quite interesting as well, sleep.
Absolutely. So I mean, for people who are finding that they're getting hungry during the night and they're waking up because they're hungry, I mean, a good idea there is maybe like a tablespoon of peanut butter or a handful of nuts, something like that. So not something with too much sugar, but just, you know, a little bit more fat, something like that, just before bed, just so that they don't wake up during the night.
Yeah, so I suppose putting that routine together, one of them, like for me, you know, that I get up often, you know, that has always been a struggle for me, is to make sure that, you know, in your bedside table, you've got water, you've got, you know, a handful of nuts or whatever the case might be that's there. So you don't get up, because I know that, you know, once I'm up, then, you know, I get into work. You know, that's always been, you know, that's my time. You know, that's when I feel that I'm most productive. Probably rubbish, but the point is, I feel that's always been where I've worked. I like the, you know, the solitude, and I like the kind of quietness, but it's not healthy. Certainly not doing me any favors. So, you know, that's, you know, I think part and parcel of that sleep routine. You know, that's on. So on the program itself, for our program participants that will see this, you know, in the sleep module, you know, we'll do a very detailed sleep tracker, and also, you know, Jenny wants to start looking at dream tracking, you know, and understanding what's going on there, and starting to look at those things in the context of, you know, general of this desire for optimal health, and that's something, you know, very new for me. I think, Warren, I think you were talking to me at some point, you know, about how, you know, the importance of that kind, you know, of tracking that stuff, or at least understanding, you know, what's happening in, you know, in your sleep. So yeah, that's and I found the reason why my internet was too slow. Sorry, I was connected to like my phone and not the actual router. So apologies. I found it seems to be much better now. I'm actually connected to the right thing. So I'll just I'll put that of that that little presentation up, if you want, and we can just, you know, have a look. So if we just, so the big parts here, let's do this. Okay. Okay. All right. So the big ones, kind of the breathing, and we'll touch on that a little bit. Mindful meditation, and there are some great resources that we've put on to the presentation as well. So that will be in your folders. Tapping, this is the tapping section, and there's again a bunch of resources that looks cool. And then the yoga. So I think the objective here, is kind of 15 minutes a day of formal stuff, but getting up towards bedtime. Jenny, do you want to talk to any of these specifically?
No, I mean not today.
Okay.
No, I don't think we're going to go into. We'll go into that at a later point. Yeah.
All right. There are some very specific kind of yoga stuff, which I think is really useful. Both of these sets are, we've had a look at quite carefully and like them, because these are quite specific, and we're able to prescribe these as well into your wellness app, so we'll be able to prescribe these as programs.
Are you able to make that bigger?
Yeah, I can make it bigger. The problem is, hold on. There we go. Okay. So how's that? So there we go. So kneeling, your kneeling pose, cat and cow, and I've got these all in video as well. So I'll definitely create a specific program in my wellness, so you'll be able to see the videos. Child pose, the figure 4 against the wall. You like this specifically as a physio, don't you, Jenny? But,
yeah. And I like that legs up the wall particularly. So I think that's a brilliant, to spend, I don't know, even up to 15 minutes before bed with your legs out. It facilitates lymphatic drainage. And to have that music, like we spoke about previously, I mean, to find music at 432 hertz, put that on in the background, it just prepares your body and it gets you into that alpha state. And while you're doing that, to meditate or to hum. I mean, humming starts to bring your vagal nerve in, and it starts to reset, brings you back into that parasympathetic state. So while you're lying there with your legs up the wall and you're listening to your music, you can hum. And it's another sleep stack that you can start to put together, and just stack all these things together and prepare yourself for sleep. So yeah, I do like that.
And then you've got your supine twist and your corpse pose. So I mean, these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and I like that. There's a lot of good data as well around exercise amount, the number of exercises in any workout. 7 exercise rule. Anything more than 7 exercises, the compliance drops way down. So making sure that you're not doing loads and loads of different exercises, and that'll work really, really nicely. So yeah, that's kind of where we. So yeah, it works.
Yeah. So I mean, just looking at everything that you propose, like the breath, the tapping, the yoga, the music at 432 hertz, everything is about regulating the body, and that's what you want to do, and all of these, with the breath, the tapping, everything stops the mind from being in the past or in the future. And as soon as that settles down, the central nervous system has time to, the sympathetic, parasympathetic has time to actually sort of come into balance. And that's optimally the state that we want to be in before we go to bed. You don't want to be stressing about, most people go to bed stressing about what's happening tomorrow, or they're worried about like the bad meeting they had today. So there's also some lovely meditations that you can do in and around, how was my day? How did I show up? How could it have gone well? And then you make jots a few notes down. How do I want to have my day to show up tomorrow? And then so you go. So they develop a sense of control with that as well. But it's written notes, and we all know that days don't turn out the way they should. But then you write down, this is how my day is going to be, how your day was, and how you want it to have been. So you never leave a day hating your colleague. You're like, okay, so this happened. I wanted a good day. I had an argument with my colleague. How could it have been better? I probably could have stepped back a little bit, or I could have maybe just allowed them to win for today because I'm not quite sure. But then at least you have a different perspective going to bed. You're not going to bed angry or frustrated. And that as well it just takes a lot of gives a person a lot of relief when they're going to bed. So writing notes and not journaling like agony aunt kind of journaling. It's jotting it down, and those you literally set it up, and then during your sleep cycles, while you're dreaming, your consciousness, your higher consciousness, whatever people buy into, sort of ruminates about this, and then in the mornings, very possibly there may be an answer that a person can work with.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Thanks, Warren. Yeah, I think that's brilliant advice, because it clears it all out of your head. And yeah, I mean, lists are also useful. You know what? Then you're not trying to remember what you have to do tomorrow or whatever. Just putting everything down on paper. Absolutely.
It really helps. It really helps.
From a program perspective, I think this is one of, I must be. There are a few things that I've got completely wrong in my, in how my perception of behavior change programs. As an exercise person, myself and Quat and Dr. Georgie Torres, we've been running sort of behavior-based programs quite a long time now. But when we looked at this, we were like, okay, exercise is difficult because we're adding something, okay, to your life. We're making it more complicated. Nutrition is simple because you're taking stuff away. So that it can't be. So that's kind of how we looked at it. Man, we were completely wrong. In terms of in terms of stress management or control, and particularly behavior change, helping someone to change, we didn't consider that much at all at the beginning. And one thing that I know is fundamentally incorrect is when you change your way of eating, everything changes, and you're adding enormous amounts. And I think looking at sleep, it's like that. A sleep routine, putting together sleep routines that start hours before you go to sleep, that is difficult. That is complicated. Yeah, that is not going to be a walk in the park. That's going to take some real, some real commitment, to doing this, because I think it's difficult for many people with kids and so on. That's not going to be easy.
So Steve, I mean, speaking to that, and I know we've had a couple of chats about this as well. It's actually then, the old paradigm is that, listen, guys, you need to sleep more and self-regulate because you're moving away from a metabolic disease to let's get you to sleep because you have no idea the quality of life that you can begin to experience. So people start having meaning, like a really sort of the meaning of you can enjoy your relationships more if you get your sleep sorted out. You can spend more time with your children. You can be more productive. You can have a better quality of life. You can get hobbies. You can be more productive because you're creative, because you've got your cognitive resonance going on, etc., as opposed to saying, guys, you need to sleep because otherwise you're going to get diabetes. I think that's like, for me, that has become such a pivotal focus in terms of my coaching and the work that I do with my clients, is to get them to look at you're regulating your body because you're turning the chemical keys to allow more of who you are as a life force to come flowing through. And who knows what the limits of that are, so that for me is really, and it's what we focus on. If people are focused on sleeping because they're trying to move away from their diabetes or their metabolic disease or whatever, it becomes that thing. It kind of like makes it like a bigger thing. The sleep becomes associated with that disease.
Yeah.
Whereas, sure, you've got the symptoms, but sleep because you're moving into and encourage them to, what would your life look like if you slept more? Oh, it would be so much better. Then think about that, speak of that, look to that, sort of future pace what your life's going to be, as opposed to perpetually thinking about, I'm like suffering this symptom.
It's one of the things we do. It's one of the things that we do as in the medical field. We often prevention becomes underperformance management. If you're with me, you're starting to put labels on people. So we say, okay, you have a disease, we have a condition, a disease, a symptom. So we put a big red cross on your back, you know, and then we case manage you, you know.
Yeah.
I wonder why people don't come to wellness days anymore. Because we're looking, you know, you got a whole lot of people looking to try and find what you already know. You don't have to tell someone who's overweight that day. You don't have to tell them. They know.
Yeah.
So I like that. And this is one of the things I really liked about Warren, your work, you know, is you constantly reframed the discussion around from, hold on, let's not talk about what the downside of not exercising or not being active. Let's talk about the upside of exercising. And I think that's really important. And I think for in sleep, I think it's critical, you know, what's the outcome of better sleep?
Yeah, you see, then people to give it the meaning. So what's the reason as to why we should actually sleep? So just to, I mean, it's like people know they should stop smoking because they're going to die from cancer, but they don't. Whereas if you get the real sort of meaning, because people know they should be sleeping, they know they should exercise, they know they should be sleeping, they know they should be eating cleanly. It's just that, you know, there's so much information, and so we're so dampened down by everything that's happening that the meaning in terms of, and this is where sort of maybe it may seem a little sort of metaphysical, but we cannot deny that we as life itself, and life is evolutionary, and life will find a way, and life needs to express. And that's the thing, is that we're doing all of these things to have, we can't go sleep more to get more life, because we have life. So in our choosing to sleep in our patterns is to express more of the life that we already are. And then when a person starts beginning to understand, listen, you're not sleeping to move away from the effects of your disease or whatever it is, but you're sleeping to express more of who you already are. And who knows what that even means, but it's in those paradigms shifting to, okay, wow, like, you know, let's actually try that, because it's I can have faith in that, I can see that, and there's so much. Even Einstein said, you know, that consciousness, you know, we consciousness first, you know. So there's just so much involved in that. So I get very excited, and of course we must sleep, and we must exercise, and we must breathe and do all these things. But the motivation shifts from trying to move away from an effect, from a disease, to let's express life more, and the focus on that. And there's heaps of stuff by Dr. Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton and Dr. Caroline Leaf and all those people. And everybody, please know that I'm non-medically trained. Okay, I haven't got an iota of medical training in my body, but I've seen people get such amazing results when they shift their focus, they repattern, they reframe, Steve, like you said. And it's in the expressing of more life that we already are that makes such a tremendous difference. So yeah, I'm like really excited to be here. So thank you for allowing me to be on this.
No. That's what I like. I mean, that's what I like, is the ability to repattern and to rephrase things. You know, because you know, anyway, Jenny's very similar in her approach. You know, is trying to get. We need to understand, you know, what the big picture is here. You know, rephrasing. It's not a disease. We're not simply a group of symptoms. We need what's the outcome here that you want to get to. Is there anything you want to grab onto there?
Well, I mean, I was just thinking, you know, talking about sleep routines and all of that stuff. You know, I mean, we're so good with our kids. You know, kids always have a bedtime, and there's a bedtime story, and you know, there's dinner time, and there's bath time, and then there's story time, and then there's bedtime, and so on. So I think most people are pretty good with their kids, and yet we grow up and we completely throw all of that out the window. So it's just an interesting observation, and we need to implement the same thing that we're doing with our children to ourselves.
And with our adult blanket, it'll be much easier.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there we go.
No, that's cool. So, is there anything else that you want to talk through, you know, tonight specifically?
No, not really. I think we've touched on all the major points.
Okay. So probably just a couple of housekeeping things, if that's okay, program-wise. Everyone will start to notice quite a lot of changes to the website. So we're really stepping up, you know, the work around the website, and then for the group, remember that the group, all of you, as participants. It's a closed private group, and we're really starting to connect, a bunch of resources to that. So you'll start to see that coming through in your inbox in the next day or so. So I've put a whole lot of video channels in place so that we've got some really good resources from our trusted partners, trusted friends, and then obviously the work that Jenny does and the videos she's doing. So making sure that those resources are available for program participants, I think that's super important. And then I think it is important just to mention the challenge, Jenny. I think that's just to make sure that everybody knows that. So the Inflammation Buster Challenge, you can talk it through, Nikki.
Yeah, I mean, we have mentioned it on previous calls as well, but we have set the dates now. So it'll be starting on Monday, the 26th of September, and it'll be running for 5 days. So it'll be from the Monday to the Friday, and super excited. We've got a lot of people already interested. So please spread the word. Anybody, your friends, family, whoever, would love to. I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's going to make a big difference for a lot of people.
And we're going to do it on the Facebook group, so it won't be done. Don't be done only for program participants. So we're going to use an open platform. So we're going to use Facebook. So you can either go to the Facebook group. I'll send a link to everybody and simply join the group, Jenny's Fibromyalgia and Chronic Fatigue Syndrome group, and we'll do it in there. And then, but you can go to the Facebook group directly from the participant group on the website. You'll see that there's a tab that says Facebook group. You can just click on that and go straight to the group from there. And it's cool. So we're going to do daily lives. We're going to there's some fantastic resources we've developed. There's an Inflammation Buster cookbook, specific cookbook around anti-inflammatory foods and food lists, and we're going to and there's a whole lot more that we'll be able to share. So you'll get a bunch of stuff on the challenge. It'll be cool. And it's Monday to Friday. But inflammation is, we've known that since 2004. Time Magazine published it on the front page in 2004. That is the chronic disease comes from inflammation, and we've just forgotten about it. And medicine has completely forgotten about it, and just said, okay, it's a symptom. And we see this in our clinical practice every day. Doctors talk about symptoms. They do not talk about cause at all. And when you start to talk about cause, then you often get the hackles up too, because one of the things we heard, there's no such thing as root cause. There's no such thing as a root cause of disease. Okay. Right. Okay. So where does it come from then? No. So no such thing. Cause and effect. So it's there's some real challenging paradigms, unfortunately, in medicine at the moment still, and they are hard to get around. But we're not going to stop. We're going to stop getting around them. So just bear that in mind.
So I'm listening to this and I'm saying yes, please. I'm saying bring it.
Yeah,
because I'll share as we go along. I'll share because I've developed quite a in terms of the research that I've done. I've developed a particular perspective that has been astounding for me in terms of my awareness of what healing and wellness is, and in sharing it with my coaching clients, it's just been astounding. So I look forward to sharing that with you.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah,
I look forward to hearing it. I really.
Yeah.
All right. So if that's
okay, good.
That's it. Jenny, you happy?
Yes, happy, absolutely. So
okay. So this, as usual, this recording will be up in the members group in the next hour or so. But yeah, thanks, Warren. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure. I could talk about this forever and a day. So, and listening to the two of you and just your handle on everything and the work that you guys are doing, amazing. So it's a real pleasure to be working with you.
Awesome.
I said to Warren, I just know, that we're going to work together with this guy. He's got something really different, and 40 years of experience. You cannot buy that. You cannot pay for that. That is, and work in a very difficult field.
Okay. Well, thanks for the 40 years, but actually it's 30 because
you're 30.
I mean,
I don't think he's 60.
No, you're 14. Yeah, you're just sorry.
Yeah, I'm 40. Yeah. So
Sorry,
okay.
yes.
So Jenny, I'm 55. I'm 55 this year. Okay. So
Oh wow.
yeah. So
Well, you're in very good shape, Warren.
I practice. It's all the tapping with my night cream. It's all the tapping with my night cream.
You know what? I just stand by that. I know what you do. I know the work.
Yeah. No,
Thank you, Warren.
fantastic.
Appreciate
No, thank you so much to both of you. I really
Thank
look
you,
forward to
everybody.
joining.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening. Okay. Bye bye.